So we are all marketing experts now. So now then it will be easier for you to understand the same subject again. So this is called marketing myopia. Oh yeah, this is called marketing myopia. So now that we know what marketing is, now what we're going to deal with is, what if someone within the firm actually doesn't know what marketing is, and what if they don't care? Well, the answer there is that the business can fail, and so marketeers know this term as marketing myopia. It's a very famous concept, and it consists of two words. One, which is marketing, which we know that it's serving customers and catering to their preferences. And the other one is myopia, which is basically the fact that you can see very far, just like this little kid, or like this. So, businesses can fail, so let's just begin the discussion. That's a fact, and people there are going to give a million reasons, right, because they're all smart. But let's just focus on marketing for a moment. So, your business can be, maybe you work or whatever, and you might see this kind of graph. The business is growing, and it suddenly starts declining, for no apparent reason. It can be growing, and then it can suddenly come to a halt. Well, why can this be? There are valid reasons. Maybe there's a new technology that was introduced, maybe the barriers to your industry were lowered, and maybe consumers aren't responding. That's all valid. But more often than not, these are just excuses. An executive can tell, oh, the market's saturated, oh, competition, and just like an old man waving their fist at nothing. It's like in difficult economic times like this might be a valid concern, but more often than not, what it does is that it hides a fundamental flaw in how managers think, in how executives think. And why is this? Because they think of their industries as based around technologies and not around consumer needs. Now, before I actually define what marketing myopia is formally, let me just go through an example, which we discussed before, so that it will be really clear, a very concrete one. So that this is a photo of an old train wreck. And that's what happened to this industry. The railroad and train industry got wrecked, it got owned. Why? Well, this appeared like more than 100 years ago, maybe 100 years ago. And at that time, there was, you could only get transported by horse or carriage or whatever. Then a railroad appears and the trains appear. And everyone was excited, especially the people that put money into this. The executives that actually, started these businesses, they thought about this every day. They thought their technology was the best, and that was the best thing since peanut butter, if peanut butter actually existed by that time. The problem was that, a couple of years after, automobiles started to appear, and public transportation became a possibility. And, the really big problem was that when these executives were asked, hey, just wake up, this is a credible threat, you're going to lose your business. Their answer, and it's actually documented, what they said was, oh, we are the people in the railroad system industry and in the train industry, so we don't care about other technologies, we're just the best and whatnot. And even despite the fact that in some cases entire governments, entire nations were actually putting money in railroads and trains, the industry still failed. Now, because of what we discussed before, and because of what I told you now, then it will be very easy for you to respond, why? Why did they fail? It was, to a certain extent, the technology was bound to be obsolete, because, the trains are, and railroads, they're difficult to mount, they're heavy, they're noisy, they're dirty, whatever. But the real reason was because these men and women were saying, my technology is the best and I don't care about it. And they thought of themselves as being in the railroad and train industry as opposed to being in the transportation industry. So what they were doing were not producing trains, that's incidental. What they were doing is transporting people and goods from A to B in a cheap and efficient way. That's what they were doing. And because again, the product was bound to fail anyway because of its characteristics. But at least these guys could have said, okay, well, let me try to improve it, or let me try to put money into somewhere else so that I might actually give, leave some money to my grandsons or whatever, and actually they didn't because of this. So, yeah, that was wrong. So, marketing myopia. So what is it? It's basically that, thinking about your industry in terms of technology and what you do, as opposed to consumer needs, which is what people are actually demanding. Now we know that the demand curve is actually built around preferences, about what the consumer wants. So preferences are actually what drives choice. So if you don't think of this as built around wrong preferences, you're gonna fail. And as Yasin's presentation, correctly pointed out, sometimes consumers tell you something completely different from what they actually need. And well, that's marketing research, and that's another topic that's gonna be tomorrow or whatever. But basically, you have to focus on needs. So what can you do? You need to define your industry broadly. So you're not working on trains, you're working on transportation. You're not working on selling Mickey Mouse, you're working on entertainment, children entertainment. And I won't say the joke again because I already said it. So yeah, I mean, so you basically need to act based on those needs. And if there's any opportunity in the market which is conducive to satisfy consumer needs and it relates somehow to your industry, you should take it. Even if it's not the exact same thing. Maybe, in some industries there has to be this planned obsolescence, in which, the technology changes so fast that those firms who actually think about the consumer and reinvent themselves time and again, they are the ones that succeed. Now, if you want a recipe for disaster, just think that population growth is going to save your business because it didn't help the railroads and trains. They failed because of that. You can think of your firm as, unsubstitutable, like Yahoo, which got owned by Google, or like Facebook, which is having really hard trouble with Twitter and stuff like that. So a substitute will always appear. And if you don't think about this, instead of monitoring the market and the needs of the consumer, you're gonna just be focused on your own technology, which is wrong. Yeah, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry. So you might say that you can rely on economies of scale, but the problem is that if the product costs you nothing, if people don't want it, then it's irrelevant. You can get it for free anyway, no one's gonna purchase it. And the really important lesson here is that you shouldn't be focused too much on how much are you paying for your product. I mean, that's important. But the really important thing is to focus on how to convince people to pay you for your product. That's a really important point. And just a comment, this occurs more in technology firms like petroleum, information technology, and so forth. So the challenge of marketing myopia is especially present for this kind of products. So basically what we learned today is that if people within a firm actually don't take marketing seriously, the business can fail, and it can fail, in a really bad way. So now that you know, maybe you'll be able to one day save your own business, maybe you'll be able to save another guy's business and get a promotion. So do it, and so think about marketing in serious terms.